Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido and today it is the Levincia Wonders going up against the Olivine Raiders, and as these two sides who missed out on Victory Road last season have a look at their opening hands, let's have a look at this tale of the tape, because for the Olivine Raiders they missed out by one round. They were actually in the top 5 heading into that last round but did fall out, whereas for the Levincia Wonders, fortunately for them, they were able to avoid that wooden crown. But both these sides want to make it to Victory Road. But with all that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the Lightning decks? Will it be the Metal decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And starting off this contest, it is going to be the Lighthouse Guide deck for the Levincia Wonders, moving their Mareep into the active spot. It is the Scyther from the Metal Coat deck of the Olivine Raiders going into their active spot, as both these sides only had one basic Pokemon, but it is the second Mareep being pulled for the Levincia Wonders. Now they do have a Pokemon Communication and a Memory Light in hand, but they've already got a Flaffy and an Ampharos as well. Not much else they can do at this point, so they do send it over to the Olivine Raiders, who pull their Professor's Research. This can get them an additional 2 cards out of their deck, getting their second Fortress and their second Scyther that they can set up here. They've also got a Scizor, a Steelix, and that second supporter card that they can only play one supporter card per turn. It is the Traveling Merchant still in their hand though, as Will is pulled for the Levincia Wonders, who can capitalize on those coin flipping Pokemon like Ampharos, for example. No Wonders thinking about where they want to move their Flaffy. They are going to move it onto the benched Mareep, so they want to keep that one nice and safe and at full strength. They're willing to let the active Mareep stay in the active spot, taking that damage here from the Scyther as the Pineco is pulled for the Raiders, immediately being moved onto the bench. And you're seeing a lot of grass types here on the side of the Olivine Raiders, but all the basic Pokemon inside this Metal Coat deck do evolve into Metal types, including that Scizor on the bench that has just come online. They're having a look at their Traveling Merchant. They're going to look at their top 4 cards of their deck, trying to get some more Pokemon tools, and we can see that Steel Apron in there that they are going to be able to take out whilst reshuffling those 3 cards back into their deck. Now this Steel Apron only comes into effect when it is attached to a Metal type Pokemon, as there is another slash, 20 more damage onto the Mareep. It has 20 health left as the Stunfisk is pulled for the Levincia Wonders. They are going to move that on to, or they think about it, but they are going against that decision now. They are going to get that Ampharos online, that Thunder Punch, 80 damage, but it is capable of doing extra based on a coin flip as well. They're thinking about where they want to move this energy though. And they do decide to go with it being on the Mareep, who can get a Static Shock, 20 damage on to the Scyther, a little bit of chip damage here for the Levincia Wonders, bringing Scyther down to 50 health. It is the Raiders though pulling their Lyra. They can retreat the Scyther for free with that Lyra supporter card, moving one of their benched Pokemon into the active spot here. As Fortress does come online, it is going to receive its first energy. And they're clearly wary of that Mareep of the Ampharos on the bench here. They are going to retreat the Scyther, giving up the energy that is attached to it to move the Fortress into the active spot. The Rescue Scarf has been pulled for the Levincia Wonders here, and now it is going to be the Stunfisk coming onto the bench. That Static Shock does require 2 energy, but that Ampharos capable of 120 damage if it is successful in a coin flip. That is where that Will comes into play, because it does guarantee that that coin flip will be a heads. And they're having a look at that Scizor, who is capable of doubling its damage. What happens is if a Pokemon in the active spot retreats on the side of the Raiders and Scizor moves into that active position, it doubles its attack as that Mareep chipping away here at the Fortress, the Rescue Scarf being pulled for the Raiders. Now having a look at that Steel Apron, they are going to attach a second energy. They think of attaching it to the Fortress here. They're still not willing to put that Scizor into the active spot. They're clearly very wary of the Ampharos, capable of that 120 damage. It can take the Scizor out in 1 turn, so they get a second energy on to the Fortress here, as it is a Zeraora being pulled for the Levincia Wonders, taking that final bench slot here on the side of the Lighthouse Guide deck. They are hovering an energy, and they do decide to place it down onto the Zero. Another Static Shock here from the Mareep, chipping away at the Fortress here, who is still requiring 1 more energy. The Pokemon Communication has been pulled for the Olivine Raiders, and they are going to play it. They can send either the Steelix or the Fortress back into their deck. They're going with the second Fortress here to see what they can pull out. And they do get their second Pineco. I'm sure they're wishing they'd put that Steelix back into their deck, but that's the way it goes sometimes with these. They are again looking at that Sizzle with that Gale Thrust. 50 damage, does the additional 50 if it switches into the active spot on that turn. But we are going to get the Shell Crash here from Fortress that will take the first point of this 3-game series. Mareep has been discarded from the table. The first battle point for the Raiders. The first to 3 battle points do win a game, and you get 2 victory points for every game you win, but those battle points and all damage done do count towards the leaderboard, so all 3 games are crucial here, and they are going to go with the Ampharos in the active spot. After pulling the rare candy, they do play the Will, guaranteeing that this Thunder Punch, they will flip their heads. Now, if it was a Tails, Ampharos would actually do 20 damage to itself as well, but there's that 120 damage, wiping Fortress clean off the table. And it is going to be the Scyther going back into the active spot for the Raiders as they do pull that second Fortress that they recently just shuffled back into the deck. You almost think they just put it on top of the deck, as they do get a second energy on to the Sizzle, and they are going to play the Lyra, so they're going to retreat the Scyther. Very intelligent here, no energy required to do so. They've got that Steel Apron that will reduce the damage that Sizzle takes, and they are going to attach it here, and Sizzle is going to be able to get off 100 damage onto the Ampharos. Ampharos has 150 damage, so it can still take out Sizzle here, but it is a coin flip that would determine it, and the Raiders are willing to take that risk as the second Ampharos is pulled for the Wonders. Unfortunately, they have lost their first Mareep. They do have that Pokemon communication that they are going to play so they can send Ampharos back into the deck, trying to get something else out instead, and they get their second Stunfisk, that Static Shock similar to the Mareep, except it does 50 damage. And it will be the second Stunfisk on the bench getting its first energy. Another Thunder Punch. They need to flip the heads, and they flip the tails. This is fantastic for the Raiders. 20 damage being done to the Ampharos by itself. There is a little bit less damage done to the Sizzle thanks to that Steel Apron as the second Sizzle is pulled for the Raiders. It's immediately on the bench. It does receive its first energy here, and another Gale Thrust, and this will wipe Ampharos, who is a massive threat, off the board. The Raiders with this Metal Coat deck suddenly look in full control, getting rid of that massive threat. But the Wonders here, they need to decide who they want to move into the active spot. They're going with the Zeraora. It does have 90 health. It is the Alakid though, being pulled for the Wonders, the baby Pokemon of this deck. That Lightning Claw, 50 damage, enough to take Sizzle off the board, and they have leveled the playing field here. The next battle point will take game 1 in this 3-game series, and both these sides, having missed out on Victory Road, want to get this season off to a great start. The Wonders have never actually made it to Victory Road. The Raiders in their debut season won the regulation season going into Victory Road, but unfortunately bombed out, and they want to return as it is the potion being pulled for the Raiders. They move the Pineco into the active spot, knowing that they need to capitalize on that Gale Thrust of the Sizzle on the bench that does receive that potion to restore 20 health. Pineco receives a single energy here. It does require 2 for that Ram. This frees up the Wonders, who pull their Professor's Research, they play that immediately again, getting those 2 cards, and they are going to get the Traveling Merchant and their second Will. The unfortunate thing though with regards to that Will is they've lost their Ampharos, so they are going to go with another Lightning Claw. This will bring Pineco, not Fortress, which is still in the hand of the Raiders, down to 10 health, and finally it is an Onyx being pulled for the Raiders, who actually has a type advantage over the Wonders. It's almost like they want the Onyx in the active spot so it can capitalize on that type advantage, but it is the Sizzle into the active spot, and with this Gale Thrust, 100 damage, it wipes Zera off the board, and with that, this Metal Coat deck does take game 1 over the Lighthouse Guide deck. And as we have our first table reset, if you're enjoying what we're seeing, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the action in the PokeType League TCG. But it is going to be game 2 here with the Olivine Raiders going first, and they are going to be using their Steel Sentinel deck, and they have got the Pawniard in hand. They've already got a Rocky Helmet, a Clang, a Kling Clang, and the potion in hand. For the Wonders, it's the Pikachu from their Power Reserve deck into the active spot. They've got the Electric, the X-Speed, the Traveling Merchant, and the Memory Light, as the Bishop is already pulled for the Raiders as well, and they're going to attach the Rocky Helmet to the Pawniard. They want to discourage the Wonders from going on the offensive here. To get the Elemental Switch being pulled for the Wonders as they're having a look through their hand on how they may want to approach this. They do decide to go with the Traveling Merchant, searching their top 4 cards for any Pokemon tools that could be there. Unfortunately, there is none. Their next card actually would have been the Professor's Research, but that deck has now been reshuffled. Pikachu does receive its first energy. This Gnaw does do 20 damage, but they need to be wary of the Rocky Helmet. It will take 20 recoil damage, but they're still willing to go on the offensive. So Pawniard being brought down to 30 health, Pikachu being brought down to 40 health. And the Raiders, they pull their Pokemon Communication, but they've already got the Bishop. That is absolutely the card that they want, and it is going to be the Potion, restoring that 20 health onto Pawniard, getting it back to full strength here as well. And the Raiders thinking about how they may want to approach this. They are going to play their Pokemon Communication. They do not want to lose a game. If you have your active Pokemon discarded and you have an empty bench, you do automatically lose the game. So it is the Klinklang going back into the deck, and they are able to get the Klink, so they get a second basic Pokemon, immediately moving Klink onto the bench, and they go with the Pierce. They don't want to evolve Pawniard at this stage, bringing Pikachu down to 10 health, and the Wonders need a basic Pokemon, and it is the rare candy that they pull. There is nothing that they can do here. This is not good for them, but they're willing, it looks like, to go for the Gnaw. This will actually offset some of the damage they'll take from Pawniard, because it will prevent it from being able to do 30 damage. They're willing to drop game 2 here to avoid taking additional damage that they don't want very early on in this season. But with that, very quickly, this Steel Sentinel deck has just taken game 2 over the Power Reserve deck, and we go with our final table reset. But a very interesting decision for the Wonders. They've lost this series. They want to take game 3 though, so they can try and get some victory points with this Legend of Thunder deck, and they are going to play the Raikou into the active spot. And we can see the Skarmory has returned for the Olivine Raiders with that Metal Arms. This is their Claptrap deck with the Mawile on the bench. They've got a Klefki in hand as well, plus the Rescue Scarf and the Potion. The Wonders, they've got the Professor's Research, the Elemental Switch, the Lyra, and the Boltund, and they have just pulled the Alakid. They are going to play that Professor's Research. This gets them an additional 2 cards. They get their second Boltund, and they get their Giant Cape. Now, Raikou does require 2 energy, but they are going to move the Alakid there onto the bench with that Zappy Shot, capable of actually doing some damage for 0 energy. I'm sure they wish they had that in their opening hand. As the Steel Apron is pulled for the Raiders. Now, we've seen Skarmory before in the PokeType League TCG. When it's got a Pokemon tool like the Steel Apron attached, that Metal Arms goes from doing 20 damage to doing 50 damage, and it only requires that single energy, so they can already do more than half the health that Raikou has. And it does come back over to the Wonders, and Raikou still has 0 energy on it here. They have just pulled the Magnemite. They do move that onto the bench. They're having a look at their Lyra. This will allow them to actually retreat Raikou because it's taken damage for 0 cost, and they switch it out with the Alakid, that Zappy Shot. And they do have the type advantage over the Skarmory as well. They do get a first energy onto Raikou, whose Thunder does 70, but it does 20 damage to itself. And here it is, the Zappy Shot doing 20 damage to a benched Pokemon of the Raiders, which is the Mawile, who's all by itself, and we get the second Mawile being pulled for the Raiders as well. They do have a Klefki, they've got the Mawile, they move their second Mawile onto the bench. It does receive its first energy, having taken 0 damage, and they go with the Metal Arms to take their first point, wiping Alakid clean off the board. The Raiders are aiming for a clean sweep to start off Season A4 here in the PokeType League TCG, but it is going to be Raikou move back into the active spot. Again, that Thunder, 70 damage. The Magneton has been pulled here for the Wonders. They immediately get that onto the bench. That Volt Charge generates an additional energy from the energy zone, attaching it to the Magneton, and they do get the Giant Cape onto the Raikou, boosting its health up to 60. Now the Thunder will offset that, but it'll also take it out of discard range from the Mawile. And that Volt Charge generates energy for the Magneton as the Thunder from the Raikou is going to wipe Skarmory off the board. The Wonders have taken their first point here in Game 3. They're trying to prevent this from being a clean sweep. Again, they've never been inside Victory Road in the PokeType League TCG. We do see Mawile being moved into the active spot. This is the one that's already taken damage. No energy on it, as the Will has just been pulled for the Raiders. They are going to attach an energy. This Bite, single energy, 30 damage. That'll bring Raikou down to only 10 health remaining. Now thinking about how they want to approach this here. They don't play the Potion, they're just going to bring Raikou down to 10 health, as Raikou could still take out Mawile from full health. The Rescue Scarf being pulled for the Wonders as well. Now they cannot attach this to Raikou, it's already got that Giant Cape that's actually kept it in this contest much longer than necessary, much longer than the Raiders would have intended, as another Volt Charge plus an additional energy. Magneton now has 3 energy on it, and with this Thunder, no, they're going for the retreat. They're going to retreat the Raikou here. giving off one of its energy, and they've got the elemental switch. They can get an energy here onto Magneton from Raikou, so it's got the 4 energy for the spinning attack, and this will be able to take Mawile out of this match. They should have gone with the potion, and the Wonders are 1 point away from taking game 3 over the Raiders here. It is the second Mawile though being moved into the active spot. Silver has been pulled for the Raiders, which would cause the Wonders to have to show their hand and can cause them to discard any supporter cards that they have, but there are no supporter cards there, just the 2 Boltons and the Rescue Scarf. Klefki being moved onto the bench. It too only has 70 health, just like the Mawile here. And they are going to retreat the Mawile, so if they move the Klefki, now Klefki will only do 10 damage, but allows them to draw an additional card. They're hoping, it seems, that the Wonders may make an error. They've gotten that 10 damage onto the Magneton. They do pull the Alolan Diglett. Another Magneton has been pulled for the Wonders. They go with another Volt Charge here. Now they still need 2 energy on the Raikou to be able to do 70 damage as well. It does receive its first. There's 5 energy on the Magneton as well. Another spinning attack. Klefki with 10 health remaining. We do see the Giant Cape being pulled for the Raiders. They do move that Alolan Diglett onto the bench as well. They've got the will in hand. They want to try and get an Alolan Dugtrio. They are going to attach the Giant Cape to the Mawile. This takes it out of discard range from the Raikou. And they are going to retreat the Klefki. Raikou Mawile going into the active spot with this bite to get 30 damage onto the Magneton. Now trying to hold on here in game 3 for that clean sweep. The Wonders have pulled the Yamper, that zap kick from that very excited looking electric pupper, or lightning pupper I should say, here in TCG. The Bolton, they are having a look there, and they are going to get a first energy onto the Emperor. Another Volt Charge for this Magneton, who has now reached 6 lightning energy, and with another spinning attack, Mawile is brought down to 30 health. It is in discard range. The Raiders need the Dugtrio. They get the Pokemon Communication instead. They need to think about how they want to approach this. And we can see as well with the Alolan Diglett, it is capable of 40 damage, so Magneton is actually in discard range of the Diglett here with that happen to headbutt. It is a coin flip, so they can still use Will and capitalize on that. That would guarantee a discard of the Magneton. They are going to go with that. It seems they retreat the Mawile Alolan Diglett into the active spot and they play the Will. And this is becoming a 1 point game, because with this happen to headbutt, they're guaranteed the head flip, and Magneton with those 6 lightning energy is discarded from this matchup. The Raiders are 1 point away from a clean sweep. The Wonders trying desperately to prevent that from happening here, and they can't use the Raikou because it will take itself out of this contest. Yamper's in the active spot. They do pull the Magnezone, but it's 1 turn too late. They get a second energy onto the Emperor. Bolton does require 3, and there is no Memory Light in sight for this Legend of Thunder deck. That Defiant Spark, though, if Bolton has taken damage, does do 70 damage. The Traveling Merchant has been pulled for the Raiders. They are going to play that immediately, looking at the top 4 cards. And Alolan Dugtrio would have actually been next. Now, Alolan Diglett is not safe from the Bolton here. It only has 60 health. They are going to attach that Rocky Helmet to the Alolan Diglett here that will cause damage back to the Boltund. They do attach an energy to the Mawile. They're going for the coin flip. They do get that 40 damage thanks to the head flip here that happened to headbutt, bringing Boltund down to 80 health. It doesn't actually require an additional energy now. They pull their second Raikou. And they are going straight on the offensive with this Defiant Spark. The Wonders have been defiant in this game 3 with this Legend of Thunder deck. They have held on, and they will get the win over the Claptrap deck of the Olivine Raiders, preventing a clean sweep from the metal decks. But with that said, the Raiders getting their season off to a great start. Next round will be going up against the Cinnabar Blazers, who they have never won a single game against, whereas for the Wonders, next round they will be up against the Petalburg Razors. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what cards you pulled today, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.